Base 44 sold for $80 million 6 months after development, and today we're going to try and code it live in under an hour. Let's see how. I'm here today with Anand, a former software engineer and a startup founder who has mastered his workflows, and he's going to be showing us how to turn an idea into a product faster than it takes to write a requirements document. Base 44 is like Lovable or Bolt on steroids. It has database access, it has authentication and payments. We're going to try to rebuild the core of the app today in under an hour. Here's what we're going to talk about today. First, Anand's going to share his workflows and how he's able to turn ideas into products under 60 minutes. After that, we're going to talk about subagents, custom commands, and how to supercharge a Claude Code. By the end of this video, you're not going to only see the app that builds apps, but also you're going to have a blueprint that will help you to ship code faster. Let's build. Okay, Anand, did you hear about this app called Base 44 and it just got acquired by Wix for $80 million?
$80 million. One solo founder started up the company and built out the initial version of the product. Yeah, it had an amazing story.
Why not just rebuild the app?
Let's rebuild it.
Yeah, what are we going to use today?
We're going to use Claude Code to rebuild the entire app from scratch, and we'll see how far we can get.
Awesome. Can you tell maybe what Base 44 is? What kind of functionality? How's it different from Bolt or Lovable?
After the news broke, I did some investigative work into what made this app special compared to some of the other competitors out there like Lovable and Bolt. Base 44 has the database set up ready to go for you so that even those people who are a little bit less technical but still want to build a website can go there to actually go from 0 to actual 1 rather than 0.8 or 0.9. And it really helps you get there, get all the way there. To be clear, it's a website generator just like Lovable and Bolt, and allows you to basically go from prompt to a complete website and app. And it's amazing.
So my understanding of Bolt and Lovable is that they are more focused on landing pages and Base 44 is more of a SaaS builder. Is that right?
From my understanding, it's aiming to be more of that full stack, where it gives you the database as well. So yeah, more of an actual web app rather than just a simple web page.
Okay, cool. And for the build up, we're going to be using Claude Code, I guess.
So we're going to be using Claude Code for the entire thing, and we'll also be using a little bit of Cursor in there. And basically, Claude Code within Cursor is going to be the setup that we're going to go with.
Okay, maybe we can dive into that, and you can help us to set it up.
Yeah, so I like to start in Excalidraw. It's basically a whiteboard app that allows me to get a lot of my ideas out onto the page, and then I can even use the images that I create to feed into Claude Code so that it can be useful and helpful in the actual generation of the website later on. So what I'll do is start with a website generator header over here, and let's put down our page. All right, so this is our general page. On the left, I'm thinking, okay, we're going to want a typical chat bubble. So we'll put that here, chat. And on the right here, we're going to want probably a couple of things. This will be the actual website that we're going to show. And I want it to be so that you can prompt your way to any kind of website that you want. But we'll focus on, your typical Next.js, React website, because easy to deploy with Vercel later on. And also, the folder structure is also the navigation structure, so it's easier for people who are less familiar with building websites. So here's the folder navigator, and this is where we'll actually display the working website.
Nice. So you basically wireframing this before you actually start programming. Exactly. Okay.
This is literally a wireframe, and what we're aiming for is the general layout that we're going to want to use as the instructions for Claude Code. Either turning this into words and then feeding it into Claude Code, or giving the actual image of it.
Okay.
And so this just gives me the basic idea of, okay, this is the V0, I guess no pun intended, but of what we would want our website to look like. So chat window on the right, folder navigator, and actual working website on the right there. So the chat on the left, sorry. All right, so this is a basic layout. We don't need to do any more work here. We can actually go ahead, and the first thing I do before I actually hop into Claude Code, is take this and put it into O3. So up until now, O3 was, up until at the time of this recording at least, O3 was a big thinking model from OpenAI, and it's really good at working with you to create a detailed plan of what you want to do. And so that's what I've been using to flesh out the entire series of epics that we're going to give Claude Code, which we treat as a software engineering agent, before we just dive right in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll actually copy or take a screenshot of this and open up ChatGPT.
Is that going to be O3?
And this is already set to O3.
Oh no, ChatGPT
looks like
5.
ChatGPT 5 has just launched today. So actually this will be a great chance to get to use
let's
the
test it
model.
out. I'm curious if it's going to be better than O3 in your opinion.
We'll find out. I have a suspicion of yes, but it'll be good to see actually the differences. So I've given it my screenshot, and what I'm going to do is ask it. I'm actually going to give it the entirety of what I'm aiming to do and get it as close to the description of what the entire app will look like. So by doing this, even if you are not super technical, but you have a very clear vision of what you want to execute, this will really help the model help you, because what will get generated is a very specific outline of the task that you're trying to accomplish. And so this planning step is really important in eventually creating a much more cohesive app. A lot of times people start writing Claude Code, but Claude Code as a blank slate, even using the planning mode, doesn't always help to create something that will have the end-to-end functionality that you're aiming for.
So you try to use any other model besides Claude Code's Opus, probably outside of Claude Code, just to plan out the epics and all the tasks.
Right. I try to use something outside of Claude Code because Claude Code has a bias towards actually creating files and thinking in that manner.
Okay.
The planning mode is actually really great, but I prefer using whatever the most extremely deep thinking model I can find is at the time. Opus is actually a really good use case for that as well. I just have had a preference for using O3, but you could definitely use Opus as well.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to use Super Whisper to do this because it's going to be a
awesome.
long prompt. So we're going to want to make a website generator, and you're going to help me do that. I'm imagining that this website generator will have a chat on the left side of the screen, and on the right side of the screen, we're going to have a folder navigator and the website preview of what our current state of our project is actually producing. What I want you to do is come up with a series of tasks in order that will help us accomplish making this website. Break those tasks down into a couple of epics that are structured based on tasks that, based on the grouping of the tasks that we want to accomplish. Think really deeply about all the parts that we're going to need for this, including what will actually run the emulation of the website inside of our website, how we're going to display and be able to show the files that are present within the folder navigator, how the chat loop will work and what it will produce at each step, and ultimately how we'll also manage storage for the user, which can initially happen with local storage that will exist on the user's locally running version of this website generator. So focus on making a workable V1 that we will locally host, and don't worry about having to publish this for now. Have a bias towards using Next.js and React for the actual website that's going to be generated within our website generator. And we're going to want to use TypeScript for all of the web-based creation that people work on. So what I just did there was speak out all my thoughts, just kind of a brain dump of everything that I'm thinking of. It'll produce a relatively long prompt or compared to what you normally type out, and it's definitely not going to be perfect. But what we will allow this model to do is take take these thoughts and organize them, and ask me any questions about what we want to do. All right, so we fired it off, and while I was thinking, we're just going to wait. And as you can see, I've also given, like I mentioned, I've also given it the image itself, so it kind of has something more to go off of than just what I'm saying, and it helps anchor the actual response.
Okay. Would it be helpful to just reference an existing product? Would it be able to go and crawl and collect all the features and the functionality?
Yeah, it's a interesting question. I've thought a lot about how could you turn or make products that could actually go and completely copy an existing product out there. It's difficult to do right now still. There's no really great way to do it because even the screenshot loop isn't perfect. But technically these models and model providers have a lot of functionality, web-based functionality, that allows them to open up websites and crawl websites and use that information to help inform their decision. So yeah, it's definitely possible.
Okay.
All right, so looks like it loved our sketch.
Well, it has some suggestions on the storage too.
Perfect. So because I'm an engineer, I know at least what it's talking about when it comes to things like the Monaco editor, IndexedDB. I haven't heard of Sandpack, to be honest with you,
okay.
But I'm going to trust its judgment because a lot of times the model does know a lot more, than I do. But it's doing exactly what I asked, which is taking the epics and turning it into tasks. And all of this is looking good. So you want to give it a cursory glance so that you actually at least feel like what it's giving you is accurate. There's definitely going to be things missing here, things that you want to change or include. But a lot of times if you're building these projects and you don't have enough technical background or technical knowledge, and even me in this case, some things I hear I maybe don't know, it's good to do a lot more research and or even take this output and plug it into another model and see what it says. And that way you can iterate on the plan, which when it becomes super crisp will give Claude Code a really good template to work off of. So,
yeah. I'm curious if you ever use criticizing as a way to improve your prompt. Obviously, like if you have the output, do you put in another model, for example, Gemini, and ask it to criticize and get some output and feed the results back? So you're like working in one model as the core, another one as a critique.
Yeah, you can use different models. It's more about using different threads. So even if you want to use, this case, GPT-5 again, you can do that, but just start it in a different conversation. But I do that pretty often because a lot of times if I have an idea that I'm trying to work through, over time, the models tend to be sycophantic. So you want to basically put it in another model and say like, hey, my friend came up with this idea and I don't mind criticizing it a little bit. He's asking for very constructive feedback. So give some honest feedback. That will get it to speak honestly. If you say like, this is my idea, it's gonna be like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Hey, I have a friend who has an idea. Talk me out of doing that idea with him.
Yeah, perfect. Or best thing I've come up with is this is another AI model's answer. What do you think about it? That will get its honest feelings very quickly.
Are they critical of other models?
Well, they definitely are like, well, I wouldn't do it this way, but here's my suggestion.
Okay.
So, but this looks overall pretty good to me. What I want to do now is actually turn this into, hey, this looks great. Let's turn this into a planning.md file with checklists. Grouped by each epic. Make sure to list each task as a 1 to 2 point story item with a very explanation. All right, so what we have here is the output of the checklist that it's generating. It looks like it's generating more of a list, but that's all right.
Okay.
Claude Code will be able to, parse this out pretty quick. Looks like it's going to be quite a few epics. Interestingly enough, in the past, GPT, or actually all the models tend to assign weak timelines to all of these epics. And now it's clearly realized that, hey, okay, great. So it's like 2 to 3 days, 3 to 4 days.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we're going to be here for a while.
Yeah. So it looks like this is going to be a pretty long video. So now that we've done our work here outside of Claude Code, we're ready to move into the IDE and actually start working on a project. So I like to create a doc, like a planning.md doc, and this looks great. It's got all the checklist parts, and perfect.
By the way, do you feed also the overview or whatever you call it, a PRD that we wrote before as a context?
I usually don't find that the PRD is necessary because usually it includes a scope or includes decisions, includes enough information for us to understand. Mm-hmm. What I will do is repeat our goal when I first start off with Claude Code. And we have this planning document in, so we're ready to go. I'm not going to set up the project whatsoever. I'm actually just going to let Claude Code drive everything. So I have a shortcut to C, but the actual command is just Claude for anybody else. Who's using
it deserves it.
When you start using it enough, you can't keep typing Claude in over. All right, so what we have here is, I'm almost done, but what we're trying to do is now move from the planning stage into the execution stage. The first thing I like to do is get Claude Code up to speed with what we're trying to do. So I have it read through the document and give it the general understanding of what our goal is. And this is going to be enough to let it start off, kick off the project, and set up all the files and folder structure that we're going to need to do. But what I'd like to do first is actually get it to tell me what it's planning to do here. Even though we already did the planning for the project itself, what this will do is actually have it generate tokens in its context so that it can then use that as it's continuing to execute the first epic. So all I've said here is look through this plan, figure out what you're going to do, and we're going to focus on the first epic. So figure out what you're going to do, including the things related to the project setup, what things you need, and if you have any questions for me. All right, so we're going to kick that off.
And this is not in planning mode, though.
This is not in planning mode. You could use planning mode for this as well. And
can you show the viewers what those modes are and how to activate them?
Absolutely. So if you want to enter planning mode, you can actually do Shift, Tab, and then Shift, Tab again. It says here, Shift, Tab to cycle. And this will enter planning mode. Planning mode, which is actually really useful for something like this, although in this case, since I've explicitly asked it to plan, it's okay to stay in the regular mode. But planning mode is focused on before it starts making files or editing files, it's going to work with you to come up with the execution plan. But since we've done a lot of that here, really what I wanted to do is kind of set up its to-do list and just read through those files. So it looks like it's done exactly that. Set up Next.js, install and configure Tailwind. So this looks all good so far. And it's got some questions for me. Do you want to use the app router or the pages router?
Nice.
I'm just going to say you pick. It looks like we're in planning mode here, but we can stick with that for now. It's no problem at all. What makes the most sense? Any specific shad CN UI components?
I would just do the regular default.
I agree. And any specific? No.
No.
All right. Ready to start with the next JS project setup when you give the go ahead. All right. So we're still in planning mode, or we've moved into planning mode here, so it's not going to start executing, or it shouldn't.
So in planning mode, you basically are safe from adding any new changes to the files.
From my understanding, yes. Planning mode is meant to show you what it's going to do and not actually do anything. Yeah, so this is what you'll end up seeing. You'll see like, okay, here's Claude's plan. So it's like the step before it executes is what it's showing you. And now we can either enter with auto accept, enter with manually approve. Since we're just getting started, there's really nothing to lose. I like to auto accept and kind of let it go out. And we can take a look at the page layout that is going to go with, or the folder layout. So it looks like it's got app, components, pretty typical. It's got the lib folder, great. And I'm going to continue auto accepting every single time. So I briefly skipped over what I just did there, but you can see there's three options: yes, yes and don't ask again and no. So if you don't like what it's about to do, in this case, it's about to execute this command, you can say no and shift back into it. You can also just say yes if you want to approve just this one. I like to go for the second one a lot of the times when I'm starting something new, where I just let it go free reign, continue creating things. And it looks like it's going to definitely get stuck in the actual generation.
So we're going to be making a folder with a project inside of this repo, or we are already in the repo where we're expecting the Claude to generate this from the root?
Looks like it. This is going to generate within the website generator folder itself, and the .claude folder that gets created when we start using Claude Code, or it'll usually generate it on its own. Sorry about that. Is going to sit on top of that. This way, things like the planning and the meta information can stay on top, and this is just the typical behavior of Claude Code. I haven't seen it do it. A lot of things in the root, unless you explicitly tell it to do so.
That makes sense. And while it's generating, I have actually a couple of questions I know you've been really pumping custom commands and agents in Claude Code. Are we going to be using that? I'm just curious, like, what are the go-to, at least like in the starting phase of the project?
Yep.
Are there any sub-agents or commands that you would probably use in a regular project?
I found commands to be really useful when, a lot of times when you have existing products that you're working on, while it is good, while there are plenty of useful ones when you're just starting, since the project's so new and oftentimes you're using Claude Code to generate the entire thing, it has a lot of information about what to do, how to move about the project. But there are really good commands out there that you can plug directly into Claude Code. And in case you're not aware, Claude Code allows you to do / commands like this. These are the ones that come with Claude Code, but you can also add your own.
Nice. Okay.
I'm going to let it go. And there's a lot of great ones out there which would allow you to effectively kickstart and just go way faster with the generation. For example, you can have a command that does the thinking through of a project with you right in Claude Code. And that's definitely something to use. If you want to do everything within Claude Code itself, go for it. I mean, it's definitely a good option. But where I found the most use is, like, you have a huge code base and you're trying to onboard. The Claude Code commands can help you easily spread the onboarding code to different people, rather than having them try to use Claude Code to ping, or to understand the code base fresh each time. It can instead give an overview based on the role of the person in the company, based on what they're going to be working on. That's where I found it to be a lot more useful.
And as far as I understand, the Claude commands are just essentially system prompts.
Yeah. Claude commands are literally just prompts that get injected into the Claude Code interface. So the whole point is that you can then spread those commands around to your team, to other people, and have more repeatable workflows.
Okay. What about subagents, and what are the use cases that you found useful with subagents?
Yeah, subagents just recently became all the rage because of the announcement from Anthropic. However, they've been around for some time before that. You could just ask Claude Code to spin off some subagents, have them work. But now with the explicit agents command, you can get them to spin off. You can force them to spin off effectively, and allow you to allow Claude Code to parallelize a lot of the work that it wants to do, or that you want to do. So the whole point there, I think there's a lot of fuzziness around, well, if I already have commands, why do I need subagents? Or what's the difference between these two? But what's useful about commands is that you're organizing your prompts. And what's useful about agents is that you're organizing the workflows. A lot of those workflows will be based on the prompts that you have in the commands. So it's all related, and I'm sure this will all solidify over time. Right now, we're coming up with a lot of different things, and obviously Anthropic is trying to come up with a lot of different ways to get a lot of use out of Claude Code. But while we haven't necessarily come up with the best ways to make use of all these different tools and what their exact unique strengths are, learning how to use them and trying them out is still useful. They're still a useful endeavor. Okay.
But are you using any of those on a daily basis? Like, what are your go-to 3 agents?
Subagents, I tend to, we could use one here as well, but because because it's something I'm starting from scratch and also not super familiar with, I like to be a little bit more in control with what's happening. But as soon as I know exactly what needs to be done, or if I, for example, in the code base that I work on daily, I can use subagents to kick off a lot of jobs. For example, I want to do a design update over many different files. So, which I did recently. I overhauled the entire front end design for one portion of my application. And I was able to kick off subagents to basically parallelize that work amongst all the different files, or amongst all the different subfolders, which keeps clean histories for all of those subagents and doesn't effectively clutter the work that each of them are doing between folders. So the whole point is that they have different histories. So when you have when you have tasks that don't need to know about each other and largely are similar, but working across different parts of your code base or completely disjointed, that's when it's really useful. I did try it out in a case where it's all operating on the exact same set of files, but oftentimes they're just waiting for each other to finish, so they start stepping over each other's toes. It's not as useful in that case. All right, so we've gone through the first step, the first epic, and Claude Code is telling us the website generator shell is ready. You can run npm run dev in the website generator path, which is actually just referring to this, and see it in action. So why don't we go ahead and do that? So
do you normally run a server inside of the Claude Code, or sometimes I feel it's really annoying to, when I'm running a server already, it asks me to run it again and all of that.
Yeah, it's annoying because it's hard to, first of all, see all the logs, even though it's easier to share those logs then, but you also sometimes want to run multiple things. It can get messy quickly. So I prefer to just run it in a separate tab. And looks like it's already not working. So I know why it's likely not doing the right thing. I mean, it's saying there's no dev command because we're actually in the wrong folder.
Okay, should we start the server?
There we go. So let's go ahead and open this up.
And wow, 3 panes. That's nice.
Great. So it looks like it got quite a lot of it done in one go.
Wow.
Focus on light and dark mode, which is crazy. I'm not sure why that was the big focus that it decided to add.
Okay, I think we're done.
Yeah. Oh, this is basically it. This is easily sellable for about 80 million. I'll take 8 at least. But yeah, we have a good starting point here. We have the 3 panes, which is what we were aiming for. And we're just going to let it go on to the next thing. So right now, I don't know how much context it's taken, but it's obviously taken quite a lot here, editing a lot of files, generating things. Well, what I like to do is taking advantage of the double escape and moving back up the stack in your conversation. What that allows you to do is actually go back in the exact same conversation that you...
How do you do that? I didn't know that.
So
there's a function.
If you press escape twice, you'll enter this jump to a previous message selection.
Interesting.
And what this would allow you to do is go back up and keep the context from that point onwards, or that point, before that point, and effectively fork your conversation to continue it from that point onwards.
So it's a way to branch, essentially. Instead of just wiping out the previous message somehow, you just go back and restart the conversation from that point.
Precisely. But in this case, this is the first setup of the project. So actually, all of the context of the setup of this project is from this message. So what we're going to do is continue Epic 2 from here. But in the next time around, we're going to want to come back to this point so that we can contain all of the information of the setup of this project that we have here. And if at any point we change it or we want to restart, it's pretty easy to do that. And we can make it that later in the conversation, we can make the decision if we want to jump back here or just start a new project, start a new Claude Code instance. For now, we just continue from here.
I'm curious if you use Git as a workflow, like if you are moving forward with the next step or like the next user story, do you regular Git commits? Maybe you use an agent within Claude Code to do all of this Git management. But like, is that a helpful technique at all, or just use just flow and create the whole project from scratch and we commit at the end?
No, usually I used to just do the full thing in one shot, but I now actually do a lot of the Git commit every single time. I ask it to do commits, make intelligent commits when it thinks it makes sense to do so. or I'm working on a hook that would just auto commits many things every time Claude Code changes. That way, I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And I can revert changes quickly.
So in this example, when you're working through an epic, when you're done with an epic, there will be a hook that will trigger git commit at the end.
Right. That would be ideal.
Yeah.
But what we can actually do here is add in not a hook or a command or anything, but what we actually wanted to say is, please update the planning.md file with the status of have completed up until now. And this is actually quite important, quite useful. So what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do here, is start my Claude.md file. And the Claude.md file gets loaded every time you have a Claude Code conversation. Typically, you want to include a lot of you can run the /init command, which would allow you to populate this file with all of, what is this code base about? What are the parts of this code base? But even when we're just starting fresh, it's pretty easy to just go ahead and say, like, what are the things that we want Claude Code to do and follow each time, which includes writing the planning step. So update the planning.md file after, completing each task. And make git commits after completing each task. So this way, it's a little bit more organized as we go down we go down it.
So you don't start with an init command, and then I know that it creates a lot of boilerplate, instructions for Claude, but you prefer to start from blank state.
I'll start with an init command in an existing code base. In this case, we've just started it up, so we can actually go ahead. Now that we've done Epic 1, it's okay to write /init and let it write that out. But because this is a relatively simplistic code base right now, it's okay. I think it's okay to let it be. I do use one command called analyze code base, which I wrote, that does go through large code bases and generates a much more thought out Claude.md, because the init command seems to do a very cursory overview.
Okay.
I wanted to go through every single part of the, every single class, every single function. So that's the only case where that's a command I use quite a lot. But other than that, I find init is usually sufficient.
Nice. And then on the tasks themselves, I know that the Claude has its own to-do tasks. And then also we're maintaining the planning.md file, which is kind of seems redundant a little bit. Like, I know the Claude wants its own system to exist, but like, where do you feel the value and benefits of having a separate file versus just relying on Claude Code?
Yeah, Claude.md is already is loaded every single time that you have a Claude Code instance, but so it's not something you want every single time. Having a separate file like planning.md or notes.md, changelog.md, these serve different purposes. Like notes is usually what I'll use if I have to do a very complex task and I needed to keep a scratch pad. That's not something I would put into Claude.md because it's not something I want to persist necessarily beyond that session. Planning.md is really just a planning, and I'll delete it after we're done with everything, or I'll just turn it into a different kind of file, like all the tasks we did complete. So different, just like anything, like different files have different purposes. If it's not something you want to load every time or for every instance of Claude Code, then don't put it in the Claude.md. This is more like your initial system prompt. So
got it.
That's just something to keep in mind.
So my question probably was more around the planning.md, where it's essentially to-do list, and then also the Claude to-do list inside of Claude Code. And those are two separate systems.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, the to-do list in Claude Code is more of the to-do list for the specific Claude Code session that's about to get executed. So the planning.md is for the entirety of your project, keeping track among, if I want to switch to a new Claude Code instance now, my planning.md will have kept track of what we've completed. It's also added key implementation details on its own, which is awesome. And now when I go to the second epic, even if I start a new Claude Code instance, it's going to start with a lot of the information that we've already done. That's not the case when you're just using the to-do list that's within Claude Code. So that's the difference there.
What's next for us? So we have Epic 1 done and the app works. How are we going to proceed?
Yeah, so we've finished Epic 1 and looks like we got the 3-pane setup that we wanted. Now we're going to, and we've also updated our planning document with information about what we did, what we've checked off in Epic 1. And so it's okay to continue in this existing session, but because we already have all of the information that we need to work on Epic 2, I'm just going to move to another one so we keep our context clean and start again. So let's exit out of this, and I'll also open it up on the side here so it's a little bit easier to see and track. So I'll say, take a look at planning.md. We've completed Epic 1 and we want to move on to Epic 2. And I'm actually going to shift back into planning mode and ask it to please gather any information you need to complete Epic 2. And that's it. Since we're already in planning mode, it's only going to do the research and it's not going to execute it.
So when you do it just in regular mode, that would basically start generating code immediately, even though there are still open questions about implementation or some of the critical decisions that you want to make.
Yeah, typically it'll start implementing things if you don't specifically say like don't implement or please like review this with me or ask me questions first.
That makes sense. So you invested more time in the beginning into planning. And how much actually like planning and reviewing the plans in your typical development workflow?
It depends on the severity of the code. If it's actually something super low stakes, like a project I'm going to do over a weekend, I will not look at the plan whatsoever, or I'll just take like a couple minutes to review it. Maybe really won't change anything, or just like ask it to do things for me. But so for something like this, I will at least review it once or twice. But if it's for my work, for an actual client using my product, I'm going to make sure that that plan is just as good as I was given to a junior engineer.
Okay.
All right. Looks like it's come back with the virtual file system plan, and looks pretty good to me. I don't see any glaring or major issues. I'm going to go ahead and approve that and let it go for it. Okay. So we've finished Epic 2, and just like I've mentioned in the Claude.md file, we asked it to make git commits after completing each task. And so here we are. We're at the git add stage. I'll go ahead and let it add whatever it wants to do. It's created a nice commit for us here, co-authored by Claude.
Okay, Anand, what is the goal here? Is to write all the code with Claude Code, or you actually do some of the edits manually, even in your own company and product?
Usually when I'm working with Claude Code, I'm trying to see how, maybe for just the love of the product, how far can I push it to produce everything? And eventually it'll get to the point where hopefully I never have to write any edits. Right now, sometimes I do have to go in, change a few lines here and there, but on the whole, Claude Code is an amazing product. So I very luckily don't have to do a lot of changes. So what we can see here is Epic 2 is completed. It's given us what it's accomplished. It's given us what dependencies it's added, and that we're ready for Epic 3. Before we move on to Epic 3, though, let's go ahead and actually look at what are the changes that we made. What we actually saw here is the creation of the file system types, the storage, and the history, and there were no things that we can actually track on the front end. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up this session and restart our Claude Code instance. We can check here that indexed DB was mentioned in our key implementation details of Epic 2, and Epic 2 has been successfully updated.
Great.
Now we're going to go ahead and hop into Epic 3, which will include the code editor in the diff. So we're finally get to see something on the UI after this Epic. And we'll actually reference what we did here.
You don't need to go and restart Claude sessions again.
You don't have to restart Claude sessions again, but if you don't do that, the context is going to fill very fast. With large context being filled, the model is going to overall get cluttered with a lot of information it doesn't need. And so it's going to have to start choosing. The information gets muddled the more stuff you put into the context window. So oftentimes, especially if you're seeing performance degrade over time, that's a lot of what the reason is a lot of the time. And so I try to keep a very short, clean context window as well. And we can do that because we're keeping track of all the notes along the way in the planning.md file.
Yeah. How does the compact command help?
So yeah, there is a good command called compact that comes with Claude Code. It's a / command, which, as you can see, clears the conversation history, but keeps the summary in the context. I found that compact is good when you're just starting out. You don't want to think about how to manage all these things and use the inbuilt functionality, which works totally fine. But a lot of times I want a much more comprehensive overview than what compact is creating, or I want to store very detailed pieces of information specific to what I just accomplished, not just for the model's reference or that Claude Code session reference, but for future reference. So that's why I prefer writing out the notes in something like this planning.md file here, where I can personally go and look at it, refer to it, and also use it in sessions, maybe a couple of days later, which would be hard to get out of a session like this. So compact is good if you're really at the very end, you have one more thing to write, and you're just trying to get through it. But a lot of times you're going to want to store the notes in another file.
That makes sense. And I know that Claude Code does auto compact when it reaches the context window.
Yeah, exactly. Once you start getting to like 99%, and you execute a new command and it realizes it doesn't have enough space, it's just going to auto compact for you.
So I would imagine that your docs or whatever, like the folder with MD files, grows with the project.
Absolutely. It's now come to the point where you have to start developing systems to actually keep track of those, make sure they're not just like scattered all around. So I'll often go through and clean up all of the docs before I commit or push that to my actual code base, because it's something you want to keep track of cleanly over time. So what we can see here is Epic 3 has, the plan for Epic 3 is completed. It's noted that Epic 1 and 2 is already done. The full 3-panel layout's there, file structure's there, and it's come up with a good implementation plan for using the Monaco editor, for creating the files that we'll use for editing, prettier, the viewer for the actual image. Okay, so looks like it's gone to the point where it's built the project and it was trying to run it using this dev command, but we've stopped it and we're going to run it ourselves so we can take a closer look at the actual output.
By the way, what are we expecting right now, just before we dive in?
Yeah, so we've added the Monaco editor, so we should be able to actually see any of the files that exist. But right now we don't have any files, so...
And nothing is workable, so let's maybe get some seed data.
Yeah, so let's actually ask it. Looks like we're not really seeing anything on the UI. What should we be seeing? Claude Code knows what it's been doing. So it says I should have a chat interface, placeholder for now, the center panel, and the Monaco code editor with tabs for open files. And it's asking to run it. But what we're actually going to do, say, well, there are no files. Should we create some dummy data to verify this is all working? And really the should there is more of a let's create some. Mm-hmm. Exactly, you're right. This is the common response you're going to get from Claude Code. That's why it's important to really understand if you're right or if Claude Code's just being nice to you that day.
It's always probably too nice.
It's a little too nice. You really want it to be like, no, that's a horrible idea. But
that's the worst idea I've ever had.
Yeah. You could probably put that in your CLAUDE.md. Do not be nice to me.
We've been actually talking about this recently in a group chat. How do you reduce the flattery level of Claude Code, and how do you make it more critical? I'm curious, if you found something that's been working for you.
The easiest way for me is always just to say another AI wrote this, or just, don't be nice. You don't have to be nice to me. If you don't tell me your honest feedback, then I'm actually going to get more hurt. And it's like it understands I shouldn't be nice because that's actually not ethical. But it's trying to have this huge bias towards being nice, being ethical, and not trying to hurt your feelings. But it's going to overcorrect on that. It's a very hard problem in how do you build how do you align the AI to do act the way you want it to act. So all right, so looks like it's actually created some dummy data, or it should have. So let's go and actually verify that. Start up the project. And yeah, there we go.
Nice. Wow.
So check out some of these components here.
So tabs, almost like VS Code.
Exactly. Yeah, almost exactly like VS Code. These are adjustable, which is amazing. And I'll go ahead and change this. And looks like it's retaining them in the session itself. But if I refresh the page, I suspect it's not going to save. So it looks like it's not saving it to the actual file system locally, but it is saving it within the existing Windows session. So it's like halfway there, but this will likely change as we go forward. For now, this looks like what we wanted, which is the complete Monaco editor built into our website. So we can go on and actually move on to the next epic. But before we do that, let's just mention what we've got here so that it can determine if it's got everything it needs to do or if it needs to add anything else. This looks good. Give it some positive reinforcement.
Nice.
I can open the files, change them, close them and reopen, and the changes persist. However, if I refresh, they don't. Is that the expected behavior?
So you're always trying to be inquisitive of that was originally the plan or the agent actually missed something.
Yeah, we're really hands off here. We're not looking through the planning in particular. We're not like, we haven't internalized what is the exact step-by-step state of this project. And so if you don't do that, it's hard to know, did you achieve what you were setting out to achieve? Because Claude Code might just say, yeah, I'm done. But it might not be there. So you really want to ask, like, was this what we wanted to do? If not, redo it. And this is very much how I do that if I'm in a larger project, especially. So it looks like we can test autosave again. Let's go ahead and just rerun the session. Open up our README folder, README file. Perfect.
Okay.
Looks like it triggered the autosave.
No errors?
No errors. Let's refresh, and that's great.
Yay!
It's working. And so that's really awesome. We could congratulate Claude Code there, but I'm not going to waste any of my tokens for now. But it really did a great job. So now we can go ahead and make sure, yeah, great. Update the planning and save. And let it do that, where it's going to create its commit, save it, update the planning document, and then we'll move on to Epic 4. So it looks like now we can edit files, we have multiple tabs, we can autosave, and we can also, have keyboard shortcuts and project persistence, which is awesome. And it's updated our planning.md, as well as filled out the first part of Epic 3. So it looks like we didn't actually complete Epic 3, but we did get the first major part of it done. So that's great. So we actually can continue with this here. Before we do that, it's at this point, we've done enough of the base structure of the project where having a more robust CLAUDE.md that will transfer between projects will be useful. And I do have a command for that, which I'd like to share.
Nice. Let's do it.
So I did make this directory, full disclosure, but it's a place where it's called Claude Code Commands .directory, and it's a place where you can actually share some of the prompts that people use or that you use a lot. And one of the ones that I use quite often is the update Claude.md file, which actually goes through your Git history to help you create relevant changes to your CLAUDE.md. A lot of times you're working and then at the end of the project you want to update your CLAUDE.md, but it doesn't know what changes to actually pick up on. So that's why I haven't actually used the Git changes in order to do so. So I'm just going to quickly copy it over here. This should make it really easy.
By the way, Claude commands are just files on your local desktop.
Yes. They're literally just markdown files.
Okay.
In in a folder. So we can run the Claude command, and it's running this file here. It's got some tools which I've already given it permission to use, like git diff, git the find command, and it's going to go through, realize that the Claude.md file is actually up here, and so we'll let it extrapolate those changes up into that file. So it looks like it's made the update. If we actually go ahead and look in here, it'll give us an overview that's accurate so far. It's got all of the parts that we've done. Looks like we're using Next.js 15, React 19. Looks fine. And it's given us how to start up the project. This is the part that I spend some time on. The project structure is something I find extremely useful because that allows Claude Code to understand where to look for files, where to edit files, instead of having to constantly grep the entire code base every single time that it's starting afresh. And what are the key features? What are the updates that were made recently? And I found that this structure works really well for Claude Code. And it's a command I use quite often. Looks like we only did the Monaco integration part. We're still three more tasks. So go through the remainder of the tasks. If they're not that important for a V1, mark them as extra and let me know. We can then decide to move on to Epic 4 instead. So, what we have here is polish, some kind of viewers, diff viewer, binary viewer. It's not really necessary, and I'm going to let it decide if it feels like it's necessary, but we can kind of tell based on what the plan is, like, hey, these are not essential. So
yeah, so you're basically even outsourcing your TPMs role already to Claude partially. How do you think it will decide based on, like, just under the hood, what's important, what's not? Because this is all in your head so far.
Yeah, I think even though a lot of it is in my head, because this project, there's probably parts of this project that I'm not even thinking about or not thinking about deeply enough. And Claude Code, the great part about these AI tools is that they can hold all the context that you're not holding in your head, so you can focus on what the actual design of the app should look like, what the workflow should really be like. And so if I'm forgetting something like, diff views, side-by-side diff view is actually really important because the chat can propose changes that are previewed as diff. So that's actually important. It's understanding that context from before, which I'm not thinking about. So I'm going to let it decide to focus on those essential items and mark the others as extra before we move on to Act 4. Yes, let's focus on what's essential and mark the rest as extra for later.
This is where I imagine like subagents would be helpful. For example, I'm a TPM, this is subagent a TPM, this is the coder. So you kind of like switch back and forth. Hey, is that important feature for my MVP or V1?
Definitely. And really you can even design a subagent that is the TPM, which may be what you're saying. And then one layer above that is the entire project manager, the director, who is not only managing the TPM, but can also manage a designer who's simultaneously working on what the updates for the design will look like. Eventually, all of this will hook into plenty of external tools, and we'll just have these amazing workflows that'll all exist within, whether it's Claude Code or any other tool that comes out there in the future. Looks like it's asking me for some more feedback. So option A is complete the remaining of Epic 3 first, and then move to Epic 4. Move to Epic 4 since the milestone shows M2. The diff viewer is absolutely critical. Okay, looks like it says Epic 4 might give more immediate value since you can see your code changes reflected in live. Move on to Epic 4.
So what are we expecting from Epic 4 right now?
So it looks like we're going to introduce the Sandpack for actually being able to run our code and preview what we're building. I think that will also give us a good sense of if the project is working, if the files are actually getting registered. And like it said, move us closer to the actual V1 where we'll have a working prototype ready to go.
Nice. And we are probably going to be able to see all of those sample files to be running inside of some sort of a container and viewable from the web.
Yeah, exactly. And that sense of accomplishment is actually important when you're building these projects. You don't want to get too bogged down in especially when you're vibe coding. You don't want to get too bogged down in this error or that error. You just want to see something working, and that's what makes it exciting to continue down that path and keep building out these projects. All right, so we finished. Looks like it's completed the first part of Epic 4. Hasn't updated anything here yet, but we can test a live preview, and looks like this is a huge milestone. So let's give it a try.
Do you even know what Sandbox is? Oh, Sandpack, sorry.
Yeah.
By the way, do you know what Sandpack is?
Honestly, I don't know what Sandpack is. Looks like we're going to find out. I'm guessing it has something to do with sandboxing. I mean, that's kind of an easy guess, but let's go ahead and run this and open it up. So we'll refresh here. All right.
Okay.
Looks like I'm not seeing anything yet.
Because we don't see the preview probably, right, from the preview component?
Exactly. Hey, there is no preview component. We need to look into that. Let's see what it says. Restart this server.
Oh, that's cute. So that's the Sandpack.
Looks like we were having an issue with starting this up, so let's go ahead and ask Claude Code what to do. But restart the session. We're seeing a blank page and the 3 out of 3 starting command with the cube, with the loading cube.
By the way, when you type that, would it be easier just to make a screenshot?
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. You can give Claude Code screenshots. Right now, there isn't much here to show, and there's quite a lot of text. Well, it's easy enough for me to describe. But oftentimes, if I'm trying to describe a very complex page, or I want it to understand like the micropixel positioning or pixel level detail that I need, I will actually just straight up throw the screenshot in there.
And you just drop this into the IDE, into the session, or just copy paste from the clipboard?
I usually copy paste it either from the clipboard or I drag and drop the file destination right into the Claude Code session.
Nice.
So now it should work. We're using a more stable version. Let's see what we see now.
Wow.
Oh, well, we're not running it, so we're not
surprised.
seeing anything.
I'm going to be surprised if it works.
Me too. We'll go ahead and check it out here.
Oh, okay.
Well, looks like
Some error. At least there's not that many errors. There's nothing to render, but doesn't know that it needs to render the page.txt.
It doesn't seem to, it's not seeming to grab what we have here. It's actually running on this error. You're running node 16, but for Next.js, node version 18 is required. So it actually messed up and didn't understand that we're using Next.js and that we have to up our React, the React library or the node version that we're using. So we'll go ahead and just copy paste the error in there. We know what the issue is, which is that we're not supposed to knock down the version of node that we were using. So let's go ahead and let it fix that. Good catch. Thanks. And let's fix the node version and do that here. All right, let's try it again. Okay, it looks like it's loading without any errors.
Finally.
Great. But this is super exciting. We're now probably around 70% to where we really want to be, where we have a working code, set of code files in our editor. The question is, where is it getting this welcome to Next.js from? Looks like it's not even getting it from, this is the time when we ask Claude Code.
Not the first time.
Not the first time. And we're going to, again, hop back into that conversation and say, hey, I changed the text in page.tsx, and I'll actually put this up here to make it easier for me to read. But the sandbox didn't change. Can you fix that? It looks like we got our first API error, which is very interesting. When I edit page TSX, it's going to be able to do that. And it did.
Yay.
So it looks like Claude, even within Cursor, is doing a great job at fixing the code. And let's make sure by changing, by removing some of our excitement here.
Okay.
Wow. And it's doing it in real time. This
Real
is amazing.
time. So do you think that's happening locally in your development environment? I see the open sandbox, and I'm just curious if that's actually syncing to some sort of a cloud.
It's a good question. I haven't used Sandpack, so I'm not entirely sure. But it looks like this is copying over all of the information. If we go back and...
Is that all local right now in a Sandpack?
This must be operating locally. And if I reload it, I'm not sure if this will actually update.
Oh yeah, this is based on the URL. It looks like it's somewhere in the cloud,
Yeah.
which is super helpful for us for the demo purposes. We're going to be able to share a link to the app with someone.
Yeah, definitely. We can publish all of this and make it accessible for anybody to use and copy over and continue. But
Sweet.
For now, so we've got this basic page editor ready to go. And we haven't done the chat interface yet, but that seems to be the next big hurdle that we're going to try to overcome. Save the recent changes to Git and update the planning.md accordingly. We just finished the live preview within Sandbox. All right, I'm going to let it do that for me. And a lot of times, I think people underutilize this. Using Claude Code to make your Git commits and really fill them up with a lot of detail. It's useful, not for you, but for Claude Code in the future to go back and look at those commits, see exactly what it did each time. And so I really recommend using it to help you fill out all your commit messages, make extremely detailed ones, even though it's very clear you did not write that. But it's not for you. It's actually for Claude Code down the line. Okay, so we've gotten to Epic 4. We can see the sandbox running with the example code. Let's actually go and this is very informal way of speaking, but it works for Claude Code. But let's actually go ahead and create the chat loop to use AI to edit the files. And we're going to be a little bit more explicit. So let's go ahead and look at where that chat loop is actually listed. It's listed in Epic 6. It says chat UI and streaming. It doesn't specify which AI to use, and it doesn't specify exactly how to do it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and use Claude Code's SDK as the main driver for these changes. So if you're not familiar, Claude Code also has an SDK which you can plug into your code just as you would use in the command line. And so you can actually plug in this Claude Code agent that we've been using this entire time right into your projects. So we'll go ahead and copy the I usually like to keep a documentation folder for all the documentation that I copy paste from the web. And we'll create a Claude Code SDK file here. And so this is all of the information about Claude Code SDK that we're going to want to feed our agent. Although it very well could have information about this, because it was released so soon, Claude Code SDK is likely not a part of the corpus that Claude Code was trained on. So we can load up the documentation this way in order to get a better chance at a better result. So we're going to use the Claude Code SDK for the actual agent that will edit the files. Figure out how to do that. Update with that implementation. And we don't have to say anything else. We'll actually set this in plan mode and let it run. Let's take a look at what it said here. It's going to install Claude Code SDK. Makes sense. It's going to have a bunch of different UI components. Total sense. And create AI agent, tool schema, change validation. All right, this is looking pretty good to me.
Yeah, that's meaty.
And we're just gonna let it run, accept all the edits that it's going to suggest. Great. So it's created its to-do list for what it's going to implement, and now it's going to go through it. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and get ready with the Anthropic key so that when we come back, we'll be ready to go. All right, so it looks like it's finished the implementation. Let's go ahead and test it out and work through some of the definite bugs that are going to show up.
So I'm optimistic.
Well, we have to be realistic here too. Oh, wonderful.
Wow.
It's made it super easy for us to enter our Anthropic key. Can you update the text on the page to read "Hello World"? This is a mock AI response. Oh, but looked like it actually did propose
That was fast.
some kind of change. I understand you want me to help. Oh, interesting. So it looks like it didn't actually send it. So let's read. Let's actually read what it did. Complete chat interface. So it looks like it actually did the chat interface or mock AI service, development ready for testing without API cost. Great. We can actually use the AI. So let's do that. Make the AI part functional.
So right now it's a mock. Basically, it doesn't really connect to the code structure that we have.
Yeah, exactly. So I see that you have an API key available. Let's make it work with the real Claude Code SDK. I do have another one for agents while we're waiting here, which is very similar and actually works to help you try out new agents, organize them. There's one for front-end development, which is gaining a lot of popularity right now, and there's quite a lot of them that you can take a look through.
How does it work? You just copy the URL and then install it locally?
Yeah, all you have to do is copy the curl. It's available right here. You can also quickly check it out if you're interested.
And what is the URL again?
And this URL is different. It's subagents.cc.
Okay,
Are able
sweet.
to snag the CC one?
Yeah, we'll include this in the description.
Yeah, and go ahead and check it out. All right, looks like it's finished the changes here. Let's go ahead and check out how it did. Can you change the text on the page to read "Hello World"?
It's actually upgraded the chat too, which is nice.
Looks like it has. It says Claude Code process with
Error.
an error. Let's give it this very vague error that we have here and see if it can figure out why it's doing that. All right. Wow. It looks like it's...
Whoa, spit out something. But it does this in a chat instead of the app.
Looks like it is currently proposing changes. The UI is crazy, but we can apply the selected and see what happens. Looks like nothing, but let's refresh. Nothing yet. Can you change the text to read "Hello World"? Well, it's an amazing UI that is created. Honestly, I really like the way it looks. I mean, it's very clunky, but I like that it's using a cursor and coming out with that. And actually, that's an interesting point because Claude Code does have its own sense of design and feel, and it is very much. I mean, these are all standard Chad CN components, but it's very interesting to see that it does have some intrinsic sense of what looks good, what will make sense to the user, and I think that's interesting to see. All right, so it looks like it's unable to actually apply the changes accurately, but it is creating changes based on what we have, which is amazing. So let's go ahead and let it know that. Great. Looks like, and you don't have to say great, but it is good to encourage.
You're
Claude
so
Code
nice to Claude.
Look, when eventually I want to be on the good list, so I'm just make sure to be nice, just like I would to any kind of person. You know, just like you would to your junior developers. You got to encourage them along, even if they don't make the changes
You got
that
to
you're
treat them
asking
well.
for.
Yep.
So actually it does look like it did,
Oh.
it changed the page, and our sandbox is actually not accurate right now. So we'll go ahead. Oh my God, it actually did work.
Whoa.
Maybe I shouldn't be so surprised, but that's
So
amazing.
It just does not refresh, but it's actually made the changes.
It wasn't refreshing, but it actually did work, which is fantastic to see. Can you change the text to read, "This was made by Claude Code"? Text to, can you add this to the bottom is actually what I want to say. Go ahead and click it.
It's also pretty fast. I think it's using probably like a lighter model. Do you think it's using Sonnet?
I'm not sure exactly which model it's using, but it is working incredibly fast. So we'll go ahead, push those changes, check out our page, and it's not here, but it could be. It could appear if we refresh. Let's take another look.
I think it's included. It created a new component, but it did not include that component into the page. There's a footer, right?
Oh yes, looks like there's a footer, but it didn't add it. Can you add the footer to the page.tsx? And now you can see we're almost using this exactly how we're using Claude Code in our code base and in this website that we've just created, which is absolutely amazing. So it looks like it's able to fetch the page, create the new changes, add some copy, and we'll apply the selected. Oh, it looks like we hit an issue. Well, let's see if it actually worked.
Yeah, it's
Your
inserted the
existing
footer.
main content, footer,
It just does not refresh.
refresh. Oh, footer not defined. That's fine.
Oh, it's not imported.
Let's
Come on, Claude Code.
let's take another look. Let's see if the Claude Code within our website can actually vibe our way to success.
Oh, this is Inception.
This is Claude Code working inside Claude Code generated code.
I think we need to go a level deeper.
We need to get Claude Code. Well, this is actually Claude Code generated a Claude Code SDK call. This is just insane. This is just too many. It looks like we're also getting another kind of issue here where it's saying the file already exists. That's fine. It shouldn't be a major issue. We'll go ahead and refresh, and it'll say it's saying the footer is not defined. So we can go ahead and check out a page here. This is trying to import footer, but it's not able to find it.
Yeah.
So maybe we have to make the change ourselves.
There's something about, I think, package.json and how it's routing the imports.
Yeah. Looks like that's what it is.
How about just asking Claude to fix that?
It's a good question. I think this was the exact same issue as before, but
So now we're completely switching into using our newly created app.
we're not even using Claude Code anymore. We're just using Claude. We're just using the SDK that we put.
Why
within
having a cursor if you can just build your own?
Exactly. This is just the easiest way to make your own apps at this point. So it looks like it's going to help us fix the missing component. This proposed a change. So the error occurred because it wasn't being used, or it was being used but it wasn't defined. So it's going to create this new component. Let's apply the selected. Looks like we got the same error. So let's actually throw this error, which is in our application itself, into Claude Code here.
Wow. So we need to zoom out a little bit for a while before we zoom in back.
Yeah, so we're still trying to make the app and make the app work, but we're really close to getting it fully functional. We skipped ahead here and actually didn't tell it that it was completely working, but looks like it's made some changes. Let's see if we can get this to work.
It's so funny. I think I was listening to a podcast with CPO of Anthropic, and he was saying that 95% of Claude Code's code is actually written by Claude Code, which is basically pretty much what we do right now.
This is exactly what we're doing right here. So he's 100% accurate. So it looks like this is actually an issue with the way we're structuring our code or with Sandpack. So we're going to go ahead and take a moment to figure it out. We fixed some of the earlier issues and we got it to render. We realized it wasn't picking up the footer earlier, but we fixed that. And it's now able to render our changes, which is fantastic. So what we have here is the basic version of what Base 44 and a lot of these other apps like Lovable and Bolt provide. A AI assistant chat editor that's able to actually manipulate files and a folder structure and turn it into working code that we can then edit and play around with and create full, complete websites with. This is obviously the V1 or V0.1 of what this can look like. But with a little bit more work, we can actually get to a completely working website that from which we can create other websites.
This is amazing. Honestly, I was not expecting that good of an outcome, and honestly, very much surprised. And sounds like you too. I saw a little smile on your face when you saw that chat being generated and the cursor and all of those, dynamical user interface interactions and the actual code being rendered in a sandbox, and actually made some changes, and these changes being reflected in the render app. So this is really cool.
This is super cool. Even though I see a lot of Claude Code generated code, I know how amazing it is. It still blows me away every single time because it's just amazing that we can make these things with just a few prompts.
And what are your takeaways from the session?
What I wanted to show here is really the power of Claude Code, how you can use it, how you can get a lot out of it in your daily workflows when you're building up these new projects. We didn't get to cover how to maybe use it over a large code base, but we did get to see how far it can take you when it comes to generating new projects, fleshing out an idea, and going really from just a random idea you have to the conception of that project, which is amazing. And it's always surprising to me, really, just how good it is at understanding what you're trying to get to. And that's really what I wanted to show everybody else here.
Thanks, Anand.
Thanks.